What do you think destroys a marriage? Inability to communicate in a healthy way, distrust, resentment. These. Cheating is a symptom of things being broken. Condescension, lack of trust, resentment. There is an author who did scientific research on what breaks marriages up. Gottsman is his name, I think. He answers this question exactly. To be more specific, what he calls the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in a marriage are criticism, defensiveness, contempt and stonewalling. His book The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work is fantastic. Specifically targeting the other's weak points during arguments and lack of time spent together. I'm 18 and have no experience in this, but I think if you have any argument, whether it be with your lover, family members or friends, targeting weak points is just cheap. And when you cross that line of destroying a person's confidence or self-image, there is no coming back from that. No matter how much you try and fix it, there would always be resentment. People might be aware of their own shortcomings, but having someone else state them to you in an effort to get leverage over you is pure hatred. You are exactly right. If I'm easily wounded, and I am, even though I would rarely admit it, other people are too. If I'm hurt by words, other people are too. We are masters at masking, and a lot of people are walking around with terrible pain. If we were to follow your advice, our society would undoubtedly be much healthier. Holding your partner to a higher expectation than yourself. As time goes on, it's really easy to have pet peeves, and those to become toxic. Sometimes you need to remember that your partner is just as human as you and show empathy, just as human as you, but not necessarily in the same way. This has taken me a long time to wrap my head around. I know I make mistakes, and I'll typically allow for the fact that others make mistakes too. But I also have some weirdness, and it's been really hard to internalize the idea that other people do too, and that their weirdness feels as natural and true to them as mine does to me. Not having hobbies or activities that you enjoy doing together from time to time. Taking each other for granted. Making a person outside your marriage your primary confidant over your spouse. Neglecting to do nice unexpected things for each other. Not letting stupid little irritations slide or being hypercritical. Thinking that marriage doesn't need real work on your part. Lack of communication. Focusing only on the kids. You need to spend time together. Just had a friend's marriage of 17 years basically end due to this. Lack of being on the same page financially, child raising, time usage, lack of planning. Plan for the week, year and 5 years together. Be kind to each other, extreme sarcasm, and using each other as a butt of jokes does not help. At the start it may seem fun and okay, but the minute one feels a bit too much slighted, things will escalate quickly. If you are a guy, please for the love of God do not refer to your wife as your old lady. This phrase drives me nuts when people use it. This is just a personal thing for me, but I would expect my wife to be upset if I referred to her as my old lady. Assuming that it has an end date. If you act as if you're going to live with that person for the rest of your life, it informs everything you do. From avoiding food they don't like to making sure you're doing okay at work, so there aren't financial issues. Also, it's way too easy to put your emotional life into other things if you're pretty sure the relationship you're in has an expiration date. Unrealistic expectations from either side or both sides that isn't talked about. A lot of times we expect our spouse to just know to do something and get mad if they don't. Chances are you didn't marry a mind reader, and if you did, then good luck with that one. My ex-wife sleeping with my best friend and her ex. That'll do it. If I had to pick one. That's it. A number of things, but I think when married people stop being friends and stop making an effort to keep growing together, the marriage may not end in divorce, but will die a slow, painful death. Happens all the time. There are couples everywhere that are so used to each other they barely acknowledge one another's existence anymore. They just exist in the same space together until one of them dies, and when they do notice one another they are bickering, or just generally getting on each other's nerves. They don't have any fun anymore, and they don't know each other anymore. This, all the other responses about communication and trust etc. It comes down to forgetting that, before you were spouses, you were friends. The kids apparently. Dad, sorry it's not my Saturday kiddo. Mom says the check is late. She's getting cranky without her grown-up grape juice. Kids, This is a terrible thing to say, but it's true. This is why traditional culture nurtured young people to understand what marriage actually means, so that when they become of age, they would choose their mates wisely and take marriage seriously and actually understand the sacrifice and responsibility involved. For better or for worse means what it says, because after all, you cannot possibly choose your children, and they certainly are unable to choose their parents when born. A lot of people say a loss of trust. It does have an effect. However, I think the bigger issue is loss of respect. I think rebuilding trust is a lot easier than rebuilding respect. Once it's gone, you might not even realize it, and it's hiding under the surface, slowly eating away at anything you try to rebuild. I've been there. I lost respect for my now ex-wife. It took years, and it wasn't until the marriage was over that I noticed it colored my interactions with her in a way that eroded everything else. There was no getting it back. It was all over. Just took years to realize. The other word for this is contempt. I'm on the receiving end of this in my relationship. But you say it much more nicely, and oddly, that makes it easier to hear on this end. So thanks. Facebook addicts. I was just telling that I got this girl before, and I was together since 3 years, and I was not even cheating her or what, on Facebook arrived, and she wanted me to accept her on Facebook, and I don't want it because I was like in front of her, and she told me like accept me on Facebook. It was virtual, means no sense. So I say I'm in front of you. I don't need to accept you on Facebook. She started to be crazy. She thought that because I didn't accept her, she thought I was cheating. She told me like, oh, it's over. I can't believe you. I said, come on, you're crazy. Because like, yeah, I'm in front of you. I'm every day here in your house. It means like it's jealousy, pure jealousy for nothing, you know. Virtual thing. Blessed comment. Raiding Area 51 without your so. Be sure to bring back some sweet alien tech to smooth it over. There is research to suggest contempt. Once you go there, you're ducked. For those not in the know, here is the definition I googled. Contempt, the feeling that a person or a thing is beneath consideration, worthless, or deserving scorn. Unfortunately, I'm too lazy and tired to find and link said research. I've heard that it's actually mostly money issues. It's not money, but not talking about money. Not being honest about what's going on financially, and not being willing to have the difficult money talks will cause a lot of relationship pain. Sounds like money issues. People settling, as in marrying someone they are not totally in love with. It's essentially the root of a lot of problems. If you really love your spouse, you wouldn't want to cheat. You would be able to get through anything life throws at you. You'd be able to communicate lovingly and effectively. You'd have a bond so good that you'd be able to be open while letting your partner have their privacy. But sometimes the feeling between spouses isn't mutual, and all it can take is one person of the relationship to agree to marriage without having those feelings, and could end in a bad marriage. I know love isn't the only important factor, but I personally feel that a majority of marital issues can be traced back to something as simple as that. Different personalities can also cause issues. Some people have a hard time with communication, and this miscommunication could also destroy it, even if you are in love. Contempt. Every single time. Doesn't matter what it stems from, as soon as there's contempt, it's over. There's a whole movie about that. It's called Contempt. Venting your frustrations after arguments with your spouse to your parents. I never realized how toxic this was until I did it and ruined my parents' image of my husband. Trying to win individual situations instead of making the partnership the winner. Realizing that even if you're in the right about something, it may not be helpful or productive to try to come out as the victor. An example is, my husband stayed out stupid late last night. As I lay in bed waiting for him to come home, I thought of all the things I could say or do to make him realize the wrongness/stupidity of his actions. Like, you know, the kids start making noise in 3.5 hours, right? But in the end I realized that those things would make him feel like and would make me feel like a harpy. So I just told him good night. You don't have to love a situation. But just because you don't like something doesn't mean you have to wrestle some kind of moral victory out of it. Sometimes you have to let things go, or even let your partner be right when you know they're not.